Jesus' approach to enemies is one of the most radical and powerful aspects of his teachings, a perspective that challenges our natural impulses and redefines what true strength really means. Why did Jesus insist on loving one's enemies and praying for those who persecute us? In a world that often equates strength with dominance, revenge, and power over others, Jesus' message seems counterintuitive, even shocking. Yet, his approach is not about weakness or passivity. It's a profound expression of inner strength, wisdom, and resilience. By choosing love over hate and forgiveness over vengeance, Jesus offered a path that requires immense courage and self-mastery, a path that has the power to transform not only our enemies but also ourselves. One key aspect of Jesus' approach is his insistence on seeing the humanity in everyone, even those who harm us. In teachings like the Sermon on the Mount, he emphasized that we should turn the other cheek and love your enemies. This wasn't about submission but about breaking cycles of violence and hatred. By choosing to see enemies as human beings with their own struggles, flaws, and pain, Jesus invites us to transcend the instinct to retaliate. This approach acknowledges that hatred only deepens conflict and that real strength lies in our ability to empathize and seek understanding, even when we're hurt. By refusing to see enemies as other, Jesus asks us to connect on a human level, recognizing shared vulnerabilities and the potential for change within each person. Another dimension of Jesus' approach is his teaching on forgiveness as a form of liberation. Forgiving one's enemies, as Jesus modeled on the cross when he asked God to forgive those who crucified him, is not about condoning harmful actions. Instead, it's about freeing ourselves from the heavy burdens of anger and resentment. Jesus showed that forgiveness is an act of strength because it requires us to release the grip of pain and reclaim our own peace. This approach teaches us that holding on to bitterness binds us more than it harms our enemies. It traps us in cycles of negativity and limits our capacity for growth. True strength, Jesus implies, is found in our ability to let go, to forgive, and to move forward without the weight of past wounds. Additionally, Jesus' approach to enemies calls for non-violent resistance a form of strength that resists oppression without mirroring its aggression. When Jesus advised turning the other cheek, he wasn't suggesting passive acceptance, he was advocating a way of responding that disarms aggression without resorting to violence. This response requires self-control and a willingness to stand firm in one's values without being swayed by anger or fear. By choosing non-violence, Jesus showed that true strength is moral and principled, not rooted in force. This approach became an inspiration for many leaders of non-violent movements, demonstrating that real power is found in staying true to one's principles even in the face of hostility. Moreover, Jesus' teachings encourage self-reflection and humility, inviting us to examine our own role in conflicts. In the parable of the log and the speck, Jesus warns against judging others while ignoring our own flaws. This teaching emphasizes that conflict often arises from misunderstandings, pride, or unmet needs on both sides. By reflecting on our own behaviors, Jesus calls us to take responsibility for our part in conflicts, to address our own imperfections before pointing fingers. This self-awareness helps us approach enemies with humility, recognizing that we are all fallible. This is not weakness, it's strength rooted in honesty and accountability, allowing us to approach conflict with a clearer mind and a compassionate heart. A profound aspect of Jesus' approach to enemies is his belief in the power of transformative love. Instead of merely tolerating enemies, Jesus advocated for loving them, which is perhaps his most challenging instruction. This love is not about approving of harmful behavior, it's about offering kindness and compassion that can spark transformation. Jesus understood that love has the potential to soften hardened hearts, to create connections where there was division, and to inspire change where there was once resistance. By loving his enemies, Jesus practiced an approach that encourages healing and reconciliation, breaking down barriers of hostility. This transformative love asks us to rise above our own pain, extending compassion even when it feels undeserved, and in doing so, we create the possibility for change in ourselves and in others. Jesus' approach also emphasizes trust in a higher justice. By refusing to take revenge, Jesus teaches that justice is not ours to impose. This requires profound faith and patience, trusting that a greater wisdom sees and understands the actions of all. Jesus' approach acknowledges that immediate justice may not always be achievable but calls us to remain faithful and not let the desire for revenge consume us. His approach teaches that while we cannot always control others' actions, we can control our response, choosing to act from a place of peace and integrity, trusting that true justice will come in time. Jesus' approach to enemies is a lesson in self-mastery and inner peace. Loving enemies requires discipline, resilience, and a profound sense of inner stability. By responding to hatred with love, Jesus demonstrated a strength that is not easily shaken, a peace that cannot be disturbed by external conflict. This approach challenges us to build our strength from within, to cultivate a mind and heart that remain calm and centered despite outer hostility. This inner peace, rooted in love and compassion, becomes a source of resilience that enables us to navigate life's conflicts without being consumed by them. One crucial element in Jesus' treatment of enemies is his emphasis on breaking cycles of retaliation. In a world where revenge often perpetuates conflict, his call to turn the other cheek is more than a gesture of nonviolence, it's a powerful strategy to disrupt patterns of harm. By responding to hostility with calmness, Jesus challenges us to be active peacemakers rather than participants in endless cycles of vengeance. This approach is about asserting our moral independence. Rather than letting others' negative actions dictate our responses, we maintain control over our own behavior, showing that real strength is found in our ability to stay compassionate and composed. Jesus' message here suggests that peace is not passive but a choice to stand apart from hostility, to rise above it with dignity and self-control. Jesus' approach also presents a radical view of forgiveness as a tool for societal healing. Forgiving an enemy does not erase the harm done but initiates a process that opens the door to reconciliation and understanding. In his interactions, Jesus demonstrates that forgiveness can dissolve barriers of resentment, uniting people across divisions. His words on forgiving 70 times 7 encourage a culture where forgiveness becomes a foundation for connection rather than separation. This approach to forgiveness holds the potential to mend not only personal relationships but also communal and societal rifts, inspiring us to view forgiveness as an act of social strength. By forgiving, we foster environments where wounds are healed and past grievances are set aside, building a foundation for shared growth and mutual respect. A profound aspect of Jesus' teachings on enemies is his invitation to replace fear with love. Often, we see enemies as threats, letting fear dictate our responses. Jesus, however, calls for a radical shift in perspective. By choosing to love rather than fear those who oppose us, we open ourselves to understanding and empathy. Jesus teaches that love is the most powerful antidote to fear, suggesting that when we approach others with compassion, we dismantle their potential to harm us. This approach takes immense courage, as it requires us to make ourselves vulnerable and let go of control. Yet, by choosing love, we build a foundation of inner strength that cannot be shaken by others' hostility. Another layer of Jesus' approach is his focus on self-transformation as the path to peace. In his teachings, he often emphasizes that the journey to harmony with others starts within. He encourages us to examine our own hearts, beliefs, and biases, to see whether they contribute to division. For example, the instruction to remove the log from your own eye before judging others challenges us to address our own faults, inviting us to become better versions of ourselves before focusing on others' flaws. Jesus suggests that peace with others flows from peace within. If we cultivate love, humility, and compassion in our hearts, we naturally extend it to our relationships. This inner transformation fosters the kind of strength that doesn't rely on dominance but on a steady, self-aware character rooted in kindness and integrity. Jesus' treatment of enemies also demonstrates his belief in the potential for redemption and change. He saw everyone, including those who opposed or betrayed him, as capable of transformation. This belief in human potential reflects an extraordinary faith in the power of love to inspire growth. By choosing to forgive rather than punish, Jesus showed that people are not defined by their mistakes and that even the hardest heart can soften with compassion. This perspective invites us to look at our own relationships through a lens of hope and possibility, encouraging us to approach conflicts not as permanent rifts but as opportunities for healing and change. Jesus suggests that when we show compassion to those who harm us, we become agents of transformation, potentially awakening in them a desire to grow. Another subtle yet powerful aspect of Jesus' approach to enemies is his view of humility as true strength. By choosing humility over pride, Jesus exemplified a kind of strength that doesn't seek validation or dominance. His humility allowed him to respond to insults, accusations, and betrayal with patience and calm, showing that confidence doesn't require defending oneself against every offense. This humility reflects a deep inner strength, a freedom from the need to prove oneself. Jesus' example shows us that humility allows us to focus on what truly matters: love, service, and integrity, rather than getting caught up in prideful battles that drain our energy and distract us from our purpose. Additionally, Jesus' teachings encourage us to view enemies as reflections of ourselves. He often invited his followers to consider their own flaws and limitations, acknowledging that the divisions between us and them are often illusions. By seeing our enemies as people who, like us, carry pain, fears, and hopes, Jesus encourages us to reflect on our shared humanity. This view doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior but rather recognizing that we all have the capacity to make mistakes, act out of anger, or misunderstand each other. Jesus' teachings encourage empathy as a tool for breaking down barriers, asking us to consider that the person we see as an enemy may be acting from a place of hurt, confusion, or fear, just as we might in their place. Jesus' approach to enemies redefines victory as moral integrity rather than conquest. In his teachings, victory is not about overpowering others but about remaining true to one's values, even under pressure. By choosing love, forgiveness, and humility in the face of hostility, Jesus redefines strength as the ability to remain aligned with one's principles no matter the circumstances. His example challenges the notion that winning means defeating others, instead suggesting that true victory is staying rooted in compassion and faith. This approach invites us to redefine success as a commitment to love and peace, teaching that our greatest strength is found in our ability to rise above hostility and to act from a place of unwavering moral conviction. Expanding further on Jesus' approach to enemies, a lesson in true strength, we find that his teachings go beyond personal transformation and resonate with a vision for a more compassionate, just society. Jesus' approach to enemies serves as a blueprint for cultivating harmony in communities, breaking down social divisions, and promoting a culture where love and understanding replace cycles of resentment and revenge. One remarkable dimension of Jesus' teachings on loving enemies is the emphasis on proactive kindness that instead of passively tolerating others, he encouraged active compassion, even toward those who may oppose us. When Jesus instructed, do good to those who hate you, he advocated for intentional acts of kindness as a transformative tool. This teaching reveals a powerful truth. Kindness has the ability to disrupt negativity and can turn even hostile encounters into opportunities for reconciliation. By reaching out in kindness to those who may not expect it, we create openings for empathy, bridging gaps that conflict and misunderstanding have created. Jesus showed that in every act of kindness, there's potential for transformation, both for the giver and the receiver. Furthermore, Jesus' approach encourages radical inclusivity, challenging social hierarchies and divisions. His ministry reached out to those labeled as sinners, tax collectors, and other marginalized figures often seen as unworthy. By dining with them and welcoming them openly, Jesus demonstrated that God's love is not limited by human prejudices or judgments. His radical inclusivity wasn't merely a call for tolerance, it was a call for genuine fellowship and friendship across all boundaries. This approach inspires us to go beyond simply loving enemies in thought and to take action by seeking meaningful connection with those whom we might otherwise keep at a distance. Jesus challenges us to create communities where everyone, regardless of past conflicts, mistakes, or differences, finds acceptance, dignity, and a place of belonging. Another subtle but powerful aspect of Jesus' approach to enemies is the role of inner peace as a stabilizing force that by teaching his followers to love their enemies, Jesus encouraged a mindset where external conflict no longer disrupts inner harmony. This approach suggests that inner peace is a powerful form of strength, one that allows us to navigate life with resilience and emotional stability. Jesus' teachings imply that when we cultivate inner peace, we become less reactive to the actions and opinions of others. Instead of allowing enemies to disturb our state of mind, we remain grounded and unshaken. This approach highlights that true strength is not about overpowering or controlling others, but about controlling our own responses and maintaining a peaceful spirit even in the face of conflict. In addition, Jesus' teachings introduce a profound lesson in detachment from ego. When he instructed his followers to turn the other cheek, he was encouraging them to let go of the instinct to defend their pride or reputation at all costs. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse, but rather choosing not to react from a place of ego or insecurity. By focusing on values like love, forgiveness, and humility, Jesus taught that our worth is not tied to how others treat us or perceive us. This detachment from ego allows us to respond to conflict with compassion and maturity, showing that we are secure in our identity and values. Jesus' approach encourages us to live from a place of inner strength that is not swayed by the need to prove ourselves to others. Jesus' approach to enemies also carries an implicit message about the strength found in vulnerability. Choosing to love and forgive is often seen as leaving oneself open to potential harm or disappointment. Yet, Jesus demonstrated that vulnerability is a source of power because it allows us to engage deeply and authentically with others. By being willing to forgive, to reach out, and to risk rejection or misunderstanding, we tap into a strength that is rooted in love rather than fear. Jesus taught that vulnerability, approaching others with openness and compassion, is not a weakness but a profound expression of faith in love's power to overcome hostility. A further aspect of Jesus' message is his invitation to embrace patience and long-term vision in relationships. When Jesus spoke of loving enemies, he was also calling his followers to see beyond immediate conflicts and recognize the potential for growth and change over time. True love, Jesus suggested, is patient. It does not seek instant results or quick victories. His approach teaches us to value the gradual transformation that can happen when we persist in love, even if the results are not immediately visible. This long-term vision reminds us that healing and reconciliation often take time, and that sustained love and kindness can eventually soften hearts, even in the most difficult situations. Jesus' approach suggests faith in the power of collective transformation. By encouraging his followers to respond to enemies with love, he was not only instructing individuals but also planting the seeds for a community built on compassion. He envisioned a society where love would guide actions, where forgiveness would replace grudges, and where people would lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. This vision is not only about personal change but about building a world where love and kindness become the norms. Jesus believed that if enough people embraced these principles, the impact would ripple outward, creating a world where enemies could become allies and divisions could dissolve. Going even further into Jesus' approach to enemies, a lesson in true strength, we can explore how his teachings on loving and forgiving enemies extend beyond personal relationships to challenge entire societal structures and mindsets. Jesus' approach doesn't merely provide guidance for handling individual conflicts, it offers a transformative model for addressing divisions, injustices, and collective wounds within communities and cultures. One significant aspect of Jesus' teachings on enemies is the dismantling of power structures rooted in dominance. In his time, power was often exercised through force, intimidation, and hierarchy. By choosing compassion over retaliation, Jesus presented an alternative vision of power, one that is built on service, humility, and the welfare of all. His approach invites us to challenge societal systems that rely on oppression, showing that true strength is not found in subjugating others but in lifting them up. Jesus' message reframes authority as a responsibility to empower, protect, and nurture rather than control or dominate. This redefinition of power is a call to leaders of all kinds to act as servants to their communities, replacing the drive for dominance with a commitment to justice and compassion. Jesus' approach also highlights the power of collective healing and reconciliation. While forgiveness is often seen as a personal act, Jesus encouraged communities to embrace forgiveness as a cultural norm. His teachings call for a collective effort to address and heal societal divides, suggesting that community unity and peace come from a shared commitment to forgiveness and understanding. This communal approach to forgiveness helps to repair and strengthen social bonds, making it possible to overcome long-standing divisions. By promoting forgiveness and reconciliation at a collective level, Jesus envisioned a world where people could transcend histories of hostility and create a society founded on mutual respect and shared purpose. Another profound element of Jesus' approach is the emphasis on breaking free from cycles of fear and hatred. Often, hostility toward enemies is fueled by deep-seated fears, fear of harm, of difference, or of losing control. Jesus' insistence on love as the answer disrupts this cycle of fear, suggesting that compassion has the power to dissolve mistrust. His teachings encourage us to confront our fears directly, to question them rather than be controlled by them. By loving our enemies, we demonstrate that we refuse to be governed by fear and that we choose to see others as individuals rather than threats. This shift in perspective can have a ripple effect, gradually reducing fear and hostility in our communities and creating an environment where differences are met with curiosity rather than suspicion. Jesus also introduces the idea of accountability without vengeance. Loving enemies doesn't mean ignoring injustice or allowing harm to continue unchecked. Rather, Jesus models an approach where accountability is pursued with a spirit of compassion and justice, rather than punishment. His response to those who wronged him was not one of retaliation but of a desire for redemption and change. This approach invites us to address wrongs in ways that encourage growth and transformation rather than perpetuating harm. It challenges the justice systems in our societies to shift away from punitive measures and toward restorative practices, emphasizing healing, accountability, and the possibility of redemption. This idea, revolutionary in Jesus' time, continues to be relevant today, urging us to see justice as a path to restoration rather than retribution. An often missed layer of Jesus' approach to enemies is the power of empathy as a tool for resolving conflict. By urging us to love and forgive our enemies, Jesus is essentially asking us to seek understanding, to step into the other person's shoes and consider their perspective, struggles, and motivations. Empathy allows us to see beyond someone's actions to the underlying pain or misunderstanding that may be driving them. This approach doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it offers a path to healing and resolution that is rooted in compassion rather than judgment. Jesus taught that when we respond to hostility with empathy, we create a bridge for communication and reconciliation, opening the possibility of mutual understanding and genuine peace. Additionally, Jesus' teachings emphasize the transformative potential of vulnerability in peacemaking. That choosing to respond to hostility with love requires vulnerability. It means putting aside defenses and opening oneself to the possibility of rejection or misunderstanding. Yet Jesus' life shows that vulnerability can be a source of profound influence. By choosing not to guard himself with aggression or indifference, Jesus inspired others with his willingness to engage deeply and authentically, even with those who opposed him. This vulnerability can be a powerful tool in resolving conflicts, as it invites others to respond with honesty and openness. Jesus' approach suggests that vulnerability disarms hostility, fostering an environment where true dialogue and reconciliation can occur. Furthermore, Jesus' message about enemies reflects his faith in humanity's capacity for change. He believed that love has the potential to inspire even the hardest hearts to transformation. By responding to enemies with compassion, Jesus demonstrated his belief in the possibility of redemption, emphasizing that people are not defined by their worst actions. This faith in human potential is an invitation to see everyone as capable of growth, change, and renewal. Jesus' teachings encourage us to approach conflicts with hope rather than resignation, to believe that through compassion, enemies can become allies and adversaries can find new paths. His message inspires us to hold space for transformation, trusting that love has the power to reach even those who may seem unreachable. Finally, Jesus' approach suggests a vision of unity in diversity. Rather than viewing enemies as threats to be eliminated, he saw them as people who could be embraced, understood, and welcomed into a larger, inclusive community. His call to love enemies challenges us to transcend divisions, creating a society where differences are celebrated rather than feared. Jesus envisioned a world where diverse backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences could coexist peacefully, bound by mutual respect and compassion. His approach calls for a unity that does not erase differences but values them, emphasizing that love can hold space for a wide spectrum of perspectives, making room for all voices to be heard and appreciated. In essence, Jesus' teachings on enemies lay the groundwork for a transformative vision of society, where strength is rooted in empathy, justice is restorative, and peace is built on vulnerability and compassion. His approach calls us to reimagine relationships, community, and justice, encouraging us to see conflict as an opportunity for growth and understanding rather than division. Jesus' teachings inspire us to build a world where compassion prevails over competition, forgiveness over bitterness, and unity over division. His message is not only an individual call to action but a blueprint for a more peaceful, just, and inclusive world. What if we truly embrace this vision in our lives, communities, and systems? Join me in the next video as we continue exploring Jesus' teachings and discover how his wisdom can inspire us to reshape our world with courage, compassion, and transformative love.